Hi, everyone. We'll wait just a minute for people to gather. Let's wait a few more seconds, people to join. Hi, everyone. We're very excited to have you here today. We'll spend the next hour discussing precision medicine. I'm Dean Andrews. I'm a board member of Health Tech Build. Before we begin, I'd like to take a minute to give you some background on our organization. We're a mission-driven nonprofit, and we're focused on accelerating digital technology in life sciences and in healthcare. We host many events, currently virtually and hopefully soon in person again. We've been fortunate to have many leading organizations participate, as you can see here. To learn more, go to our website, healthtechbuild.com. We're always looking for new sponsors. That's how we make these events happen. If you're interested, please reach out to us via the website. We have a great panel today, and I wanted to thank our speakers, our moderator, Craig Steger of Outcome Capital, and I want to thank our sponsor, MedAcuity, where I work as Director of Business Development. If you have any questions, please use the chat function. We'll try to answer as many of them as we can. With that, I'll hand it over to Craig.
Thanks, Dean. I appreciate that. Good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for joining us today as we talk to you about the rise of precision medicine. I'm Craig Steger, as Dean said. I'm a Senior Vice President at Outcome Capital. We're a life science investment banking firm based here in the Boston, Massachusetts area, where we focus on biotech, medtech, digital health, and then I lead our practice in diagnostics and life sciences. I've been focusing on the area of precision medicine for several years now, and so it's an area of interest for me in particular. But by way of introduction to myself, I come to the diagnostic industry from about 20 years of experience working with large companies, running business units, usually around emerging areas and emerging technologies. And I've been involved in mergers and acquisitions from both those large companies buying smaller companies as growth drivers, but also being part of several startup companies that I helped commercialize globally and get those companies through to their exits, all of them being in the diagnostic area. So with that being said, I'd like to introduce our two esteemed colleagues that we have with us today on the panel, Dr. Dimitri Korkin and Dr. Celine Palau. Dimitri, would you mind giving a brief introduction?
Sure, thank you very much, Craig. It's a pleasure to be here. My name is Dimitri Korkin. I'm a professor at Worcester Polytechnic Institute, WPI, and I'm also directing a bioinformatics and computational biology program at WPI. So, my research lies is in this interdisciplinary research. So it lies between machine learning and life sciences. We try to develop new machine learning and bioinformatics approaches to better understand complex genetic disorders, to provide some insights into infectious diseases, which has been a very important topic lately. And in general, so we try to leverage various types of biological data to make more sense about the molecular mechanisms behind the diseases, provide some insights to the clinicians about the therapies, new therapies, and overall try to improve the state of the precision medicine that we're currently at.
Excellent. Thanks so much. Celine Palau, would you mind introducing yourself?
Thanks, Craig. So I'm Celine Palau. I'm working at Novartis in Switzerland. And in Novartis, I'm actually the global head for biomarker and diagnostic, responsible for the end-to-end precision medicine strategy across all the therapeutic areas that we have. So it means that we are investing early at risk for diagnostic solution. We are securing biomarker activities in our program and also maximizing the patient data collected. So I'm coming to this event with 20 years experience more in the pharma industry and working in the biomarker, diagnostic, translational research, and precision medicine. It's a field that I've been always passionate about, started already at the time when I graduated from genetics, looking at the prediction of cardiovascular diseases. I'm very excited to be here today, and I'm happy to share my perspective, offer my insights, which actually represent my own reflection and not the position of my company. So very excited to be here.
Great, thanks. One of the first topics when we have both of you coming to precision medicine, kind of looking at different perspectives, one of the first things that I think is really important to kind of look at is kind of the bridging between biology and technology, and how that has kind of happened in the course of the last couple of years. And so we kind of have the general chicken or the egg conversation. Is it the data or is it the biology that we're measuring, sort of thing? And I actually wanted to ask both of you your perspective on that. Celine, do you want to start off?
Sure, thank you. Actually, it's a really great question because we are talking about precision medicine and kind of a revolution or transformation right now. This is rather an evolution since ages, and what we have been doing has been following the evolution of technologies that has helped us to better understand the diseases. And actually, when one day we were talking, I'm going to take the example of oncology, we were talking about one cancer. Through the technology, we have been able to identify that we had different type of cancer, lung, breast, and you name it. And then even by further understanding the molecular essence of those cancers. So in lung cancer, we are talking about specific niche of them. So this goes hand to hand. As the technology are evolving, we are gathering more data, and the impact of this data is even more important for patients. So that's why it's really exciting to be in this field, because there is not a day that is similar. Today, we are really entering an era where we are generating massive amount of data. In the past, we were lacking those data. We were having hypotheses and testing. Now we have a huge amount of data, and this is how can we better understand and maximize the insight they can get.
Dimitri, how about your perspective on, is it the data or the biology?
Sure, thank you, Craig. And I would agree pretty much with everything that Celine said. I think it's in order to get a better new science, which is really the precision medicine, because it's a multidisciplinary science. It relies on our understanding of both the technology, the related with the analysis and processing of the data, and getting new hypotheses out of this, as well as the life sciences that are now on the verge of making breakthroughs in high throughput experimental data. Right? So both of these components are not only interconnected, not only they are complementary to each other, but what is very important, and I think this is going to be the critical next milestone, is that they inform each other and they lead to improvement based on the feedback from the other, counterpart science.
Mhm.
I think this is we already started seeing it in the data science domain. There are also, quite a few directions in life sciences, in omics research, in imaging research that is also driven by the data. And I think in the future we will only see that strengthening. So there will be a so-called feedback loop between those disciplines.
Actually, just kind of a follow-up to that. So do you think that there's been any technological maybe evolution or progression in the last couple of years, whether it's about computing speed, power, machine learning, AI, all of these things have really seemed, to somebody novice like me, to have really kind of come to impact the area of precision medicine in the last couple of years. What's your perspective from just purely the technology, and what's kind of driven the building of the bridge?
I mean, we definitely see tremendous technological advances, and it's not just in software or computational methods development, which obviously is the key. So we see, deep learning, overall machine learning, and AI methods flourished, improving the predictions, various areas of medical research, of life sciences. But it comes with our ability to develop better, more powerful, and more streamlined computing technologies. And so on top of that, right? So there are some less common things that common technologies that come into play. For example, something that is really dear to my heart is the visualization technology, right? So now we have a new wave of visualization through mixed reality, where you can actually go beyond a monitor or display and visualize large data sets and work with these data sets more intuitively using mixed reality devices. That I think it's really important. It's an important contribution to the classical components that we have, which is software development and hardware development for better computing.
Celine, maybe from the opposite side, as we've kind of moved through the genomics into proteomics, now looking at all of the other omics, metabolomics, and things like that, how have that evolution of biology, how has that actually kind of gone back to Dimitri's side? How has that helped build the bridge?
So actually, as Dimitri alluded at the beginning, so we are having a feedback loop and we are closing the loop. With those technology, they help us to generate knowledge. And this technology have been even more sensitive. And when before we were looking at the level of a body and then of an organs, now we can go to the cell. And then all of this collective knowledge that we are acquiring through these different technologies, bringing together is bringing a better understanding. So it's kind of a reverse order. You look at the cell is bringing you to the organ to the body. And with this, we manage really to have a better understanding. And then from a patient perspective, so to bridge the technology to the patient and the knowledge is we have a better diagnosis that helps to tailor a better treatment, and we can monitor this effect of treatment. In the past, that was not possible. So this is really an evolution. And I don't know what the future is going to made of, because it's, again, this loop of technology generating knowledge, generating insight, and having impact.
Actually, you bring up an interesting area in particular is the imaging impact now with digital pathology platforms and some of the AI that is being used for those systems, and also the ability now to multiplex at a much higher level. Do you see those also elucidating essentially new biomarkers that you can essentially now dig into maybe other disease states instead of the common ones like genetic disorders and cancer biology?
There are multiple applications actually with this, and there is obvious diseases like oncology, and sorry for not taking immediately the one you are asking me for. But then you have your scans, and then these imaging approaches combined with machine learning and artificial intelligence are helping for a faster diagnosis and a more accurate diagnosis. So then this is benefit really for patient, for healthcare system, because we can be more accurate, we can predict, not predict, but provide the better treatment. This applies and also to the neurological disorders. So then where we can also here, by the combination of the imaging approaches with the functional activities, be able to better understand the disease. And again, we put that in place. We generate data, inside of the data, treatment and impact. So that's really multimodalities, certainly. And in the future, these algorithms that are going to help us to generate faster diagnosis is really something that we should look really carefully.
So it sounds like you think that we're still going to continue to rapidly evolve precision medicine. So it won't just be a genomics approach, but it'll be an image, a genomics, a proteomics, all kind of being tied up into a precision medicine diagnostics, if you will, or diagnostic test?
Yeah, we are already in this multidimensional approach. So irrespective of the diseases or the therapeutic area where you are, some are more genetically driven, other are more environmental driven, but you still need this combination of multiple factors in order to better see at the disease. So it's kind of, you see with a lens, you apply another lens, and you get a better representation, better understanding, which is helping you, as I was mentioning before, we were talking about a category of cancer, and then you have multiple types of cancer. Within these types, you have subtypes. So this is what we are currently doing. And with this advance of technologies and understanding of the biology, we go for more and more small patient population with a specific definition of a disease. So that's something where we are heading to.
So actually, we just had a question that maybe kind of touches a little bit on this point and really talks about, okay, so we want to focus in and what you're saying and maybe getting to a very small subsegment of the patient population, but we're currently looking at something that's a global pandemic. How has essentially the global pandemic sort of impacted precision medicine?
On multiple aspects. Because for precision medicine, and we have been talking about that at the very beginning, we need data, right? Mm-hmm. What is the source of data? This is patient and samples that we can collect from patient or scans that we can get from patients. So if a patient cannot reach an hospital to get a sample measured, etc. So we have had some challenges that have been actually absolutely important for us to rethink how we are approaching precision medicine and about the tools we are using. And this is more now what we have been learning from this in the practice for clinical development is more how can we bring precision medicine to the patient rather than the patient to the hospital. And what we have learned from the COVID situation as well, it's actually an illustration of what the future, and we are living it now, of precision medicine, it's collaboration. You really need to put joint efforts together to accelerate. And COVID has been a great example of that. We had technologies that were already existing, depending on the approach that has been used to generate the vaccine. But if we talk about the mRNA, it was already existing. By bringing the collective knowledge together, we have been able to be faster, by interacting with regulators, they have been also able to revisit and be more innovative with the approach. So it has been a fabulous knowledge acquired during this situation.
So, and this I'll maybe hand over to Dimitri for a second here. So one of the impacts, I think, in precision medicine, and again, this is my opinion, so tell me if I'm right or wrong, has really been sort of the evolution and really the impact of electronic healthcare records and that accumulation of data and how we're now better able to mine those things too. And I would assume that a lot of that data is being impacted by the EHRs. Dimitri, is that true? And how are you seeing that happen now? And how are you using that data?
You're absolutely right. So you know, the electronic health care records is one of these bricks that we put in onto, you know, into this bridge that with the goal of merging data that are patient centric, right? So we, you know, if we talk about like the omics data, which is, you know, now often cell specific, tissue specific, and merging it with imaging that is, or, you know, a digital pathology, which is often organ specific, right? So, and now we are actually merging it with the, you know, different clinical and EHR data. So we are now getting not only a multifaceted view of the patient, we're also looking at the patient from the point of view that Celine talked about, from cell to the entire organism perspective. Yeah. And so EHR is often one of these missing links that is needed. And so the COVID situation, I think it's a great example of first, I agree with of being a catalyst to the research and medical communities united in order to not just find the cure, but also you know, respond to the crisis that is evolving after, right? So for people who you know, who suffered COVID infections and have some, you know, some consequences to their health, right? And why is it personalized? Why is it related to precision medicine? Well, you know, here it's a very interesting situation, because now we look at people who can be potentially infected or are infected with the virus from the perspective of view how they respond to this infection, how they respond to the treatment. But also it's in a way unique situation, because if we look at the kind of the virus that each of this infected person carries, so the virus also differs, right? So the you know, its RNA is different, so it has mutations, and so those mutations vary from one patient to another one, right? So combined, so now we have sort of this complex host pathogen interaction that is also a subject of the modern precision medicine. And so we now need, you know, for that specific challenge, we need to understand at the, you know, at the personalized level, not just the patient, but also the disease that affects it, in this case, the virus.
So, but one of the, also one of the, and I don't know if this is true or not, do we have, with EHR information, all of the information is not always put in exactly the same. Sometimes it's notes from doctors, it's notes from nurses, things like that. So it seems like we have a lot of the information in there, but is it dirty data, and is it hard to pull out? And is that impacting?
I mean, you're absolutely right. There is noise in this data, right? So data generated by human is typically subject to certain noise, right? So there are some natural errors, and so luckily we are developing data analytics and machine learning tools that are designed to minimize the effect of these errors, right? That are designed to detect those errors and correct them. And I think with more and more data becoming digitized, whether those are scans of the nodes or just direct, input from the doctor's computers or from machines, that do the diagnostics, electronic diagnostics and scanning. So all this data, the more data we will have, the more accurate those methods, those machine learning and data analytics methods will become.
I find it interesting because we talk a lot about, and this is maybe a slight change in topic sort of thing, that so often we talk about precision medicine, we talk about either better diagnostics, to get back to what Celine was talking about, to segment to a very specific patient population, better specific treatments for those specific segments, but also getting a better understanding of like, how do we treat that patient over time, because their disease may change. So, and a lot of this is based on like cancer and cancer biology and cancer reoccurrence and things like that. How are we impacting other diseases with precision medicine? Dimitri, you made a comment early on about infectious disease. Celine, you made a comment about neurological disorders. I'd like to learn a little bit more about how precision medicine is helping some of those, maybe some of those other areas.
Dimitri, you want to start?
Sure thing. I think the impact, the fact that those diseases, they provide and studying those diseases by clinicians and by biologists, molecular biologists, they provide a feedback loop to the data mining and machine learning methods. There is a direct impact, because in many cases the methods use the common principle addressing different complex genetic disorders, right? So Celine mentioned neurological disorders, and this I can see it because we as a part of our research, we've done work in cancer, in autism spectrum disorder. Now we're working on depression. We've done type 2 diabetes, and in each of these complex diseases that still yet to be accurately diagnosed, that still yet to be cured, right? We do see common themes from the point of view of in silico or computational approaches. And of course there are some very specific differences in how you approach those different diseases, but overall I think the whole field is moving in a way that is parallel, trying to tackle those diseases, but also sharing the knowledge across different, across groups studying other diseases.
Celine, I think you had something to add?
Yeah, actually, it's absolutely aligned with what Dimitri was saying in the field of the neurodegenerative disorder. So what we have, this is a slow onset of the disease. And then we have usually biological changes that are occurring before we see the symptoms. So today, the field is still evolving, but making use of the combination of these imaging technologies that are providing the understanding more at the level of the function. And then we have the clinical assessment, some of the tests. And when you combine the two together, this allows to make a better, accurate, or not accurate, we are not there yet, but able to stratify the level of the disease. And when you follow the patient, so then you are going to see those images changing. These functional tests are going to change as well. And this combination is going to provide a better understanding of the disease. So I would say we are saying oncology versus the rest, oncology has been pioneering, and it was an obvious area where we have to do precision medicine. Now we have to do precision medicine in all of the other diseases, immunological, neurological disorder, metabolism, etc. Maybe the field is not completely ready yet to fully embrace. And in order to be really successful, we need to be able to early on identify the disease. And therefore, we need to early on do some biomarker research. And most importantly, combine multifactorial assets, because they are really the outcome of multiple sources. So really investing early on, multiple dimension. And again, this machine learning and AI is going to really help.
So essentially what it boils down to is that the more data we get, the better biomarker discovery we will have. Doesn't matter in the disease.
Exactly. It's the same recipe. Experiment, gather data, generate insights, and impact.
So if I want you to put your entrepreneur hat on. So if you were starting off and thinking about starting a company in precision medicine, would you then want to focus maybe on not an oncology based and kind of take what you already know and maybe focus on something else, whether it's infectious disease, pain management, something like that? Or would you still stick with something that's maybe a little more tried and true?
That's an interesting question. I don't see that there is any easier path for that, because the immunological, neurological disorder, there is a lot to discover. There is still a lot. And are we ready yet to predict? And are we ready yet to actionate this solution for drug development and for patients? There is a lot to be done. Oncology, still a lot to be done, even though we have some tools, because now we are moving to different type of treatment, which are more based on gene therapy. So then it's going to be very different. So today I would go where my heart is beating, and because it's hard work, you should not underestimate the collaboration and partnership with academic institution, with diagnostic company, pharma. So just go where you want to put your energy. And there is not a disease that is less important than another, from my perspective.
Yeah. I think that's important, that there's nothing that's easy.
No.
Right. I mean, and I think that's probably true with most of science and most of healthcare. Nothing's easy, sort of thing. Well, we hope that Dimitri keeps making it easier for us with AI and everything else. So I have there was another question that came in about the data that we're getting from the physicians and the patients and everything else. And trying to marry that up with what we find in the laboratory. And sometimes it seems like there's not always an easy link between what we see in a clinic and what we see in the laboratory, sort of thing. Is that just a matter of refining how we look at the data from one source or the other? Or is that really the fact that the clinic is going to be the endpoint for all of the true data that we need to study a disease?
So when you mention laboratory, do you mean some animal model or in vivo?
I believe that's where they're trying to get to.
Yeah. So depending on the disease where we are working on, so we don't have always the right animal model. It's always difficult to model a disease. If you go where you have an animal model, most of the time we are curing them. And as you go to clinical studies with real patients, we have a different reality. So it's actually the biological system is different. And also what we are observing, even though we have studies of compounds that are entering clinical studies, out of them, only I think it's 11% are going to make it to market. So because as you go through your drug development, you refine more and more your patient population, and you have larger number of patients. And today we need really to demonstrate a large benefit for the patients. So it's just the nature of drug development. Yeah, there are big attrition rate from the bench to the bed.
Yeah, no, of course. Dimitri, a question for you on how we collect all of our information. We're seeing a lot of impact. Well, we're seeing some impact on things like wearables and getting a lot of information. You know, the Apple Watch has I believe they have FDA clearance for EKG and I think oxygen monitoring. How do you see us collecting all of that sort of data and being able to mine that slowly over time? And does that add more noise to the system because you've added in so many more people? Or does that actually help clean up the noise because you're able to maybe isolate people out easier?
So in general, when the more data you have, the easier it's to clean out the noise. Because then, you know, unless there is a completely random data, right? So here, you know, obviously the data is not random, and therefore you are able to see sort of better trends, better patterns in this. And I honestly think that the use of variables will greatly improve our understanding of many health conditions, simply because, you know, variables are, you know, whereby, you know, on a daily basis throughout, you know, extended period of times. And this is typically where, you know, unless you have a very specialized diagnostics, it's very difficult to gather this kind of data using diagnostics, right? So they will complement. I mean, there is a challenge, of course, how to marry the sort of the short-term or pretty much immediate snapshots, diagnostic snapshots, with the longer-term and perhaps more varied variable data. Data that are coming from variables. But this is, I mean, this is why we're still developing. We're still, you know, in the process of developing methods, machine learning methods, AI methods, that in particular now facing the challenge of mixing the data that is typically not mixable in a way. So, and this is, I mean, this is a very important and non-trivial computational challenge that scientists around the world have been trying to address, and, you know, we are progressing in this.
Can I add something, Greg? Sorry to
Please,
this.
Of course.
Because yeah, this is nice. We are talking of all of this amount of data, and we have plenty. But Dimitri, maybe you can comment on the policies for data sharing, because we have been a bit slowing down because of that. But if you can comment on this.
Yes, so I mean, so unavoidably, right? So with precision medicine, we're actually entering another, another area of computer science, which is, you know, data security and data privacy, and so, and it's again a multifaceted discipline, right? So it involves developing security protocols, secure protocols, the identification protocols. It also involves developing the policy, the data sharing policy. So I see a rise in this research. A lot of groups, including groups at my home institution at WPI, working on this on these problems. And I think as we evolve the data mining and data processing methods, we will be evolving the data sharing policies. along with this. So it goes, yeah, I completely agree, it goes integral, hand to hand.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So I want to maybe change topics just slightly. We've been kind of skirting on the edge of how precision medicine is essentially evolving and tying together the technology and the biology and how we're impacting different diseases. But in the end, we have to impact individual patients and healthcare systems and healthcare providers. And so I would like to start maybe thinking a little bit about that. How do we see precision medicine? I know this is kind of a general question, but how is it going to, in kind of maybe the near term and potentially in the long term, how do you see precision medicine really impacting, people's lives from day to day?
Want to start? Well, so I see the impact of precision medicine in multiple aspects. Right. So first of all, something that Serena already mentioned, and I think that's to me, it's like one of the really, really critical aspects, is the personalized and early diagnostics. Right, the diagnostic that allow us to identify the condition, identify sort of the extent to which this condition is worsening, and being able to intervene reasonably early, right? So early diagnostics is one. The personalized approach to treatment, right? So being able to identify the specific treatment that this patient will be the most responsive to is also very critical. And in pretty much the majority of complex diseases, the reason it's complex, it involves multiple genes, but it also involves multiple sets of genes being sort of affected by the disease. And from between different patients, the difference could be quite drastic. So being able to determine which treatment is the best for this patient is also critical. And last but not the least, looking at the way the patient patient treatment progresses, right? So it's through time, and being able to adapt this treatment, to reflect the improvement or the lack of thereof in the patient is another very important sort of direction where the precision medicine can be, can play the critical role.
So, but on that thread, so what you're saying is using these tests or these methodologies over a patient's time, we'll get a better understanding how to evolve his or her treatment to better treat a specific disease. But that kind of leads into one of the downsides of precision medicine is that these are often really expensive tests and things that we're doing for patients. How do we control or manage those costs? How does reimbursement come into play for those types of testing multiple times over the course of a patient's life?
Celine?
I give it a try.
I know that we're getting into tougher and tougher areas, so I appreciate the effort.
No, because it goes also to the point of Dimitri. So we discuss about the diagnosis, but to address your question, it's going to be about the monitoring the disease, because you said repetitive tests, they are expensive. They might not be always reimbursed. That's also a question. If you consider, and I'm going to take a very concrete example, again, appreciate it's in the cancer because we are more advanced, but that can be applied to other disease area at some point in time. So for patients that are suffering from CML, chronic myeloid leukemia, by being able to monitor their residual disease with a very specific test. What we are able to do when we identify that the disease is under a certain threshold, those patients can be off treatment. And this is a benefit for the patient. This is a benefit for the healthcare system, because what you are going to pay for this monitoring, at some point, you are going to be off treatment for a long period of time. Sometimes might be shorter, but that's a very concrete example. And actually, this CML example is something that we are aiming in every diseases. And then for others, so this is called, we have different methodology. And again, it's about the sensitivity, being able to look at maybe the one cell. And this is really the monitoring to get patient off, or monitoring, you see a reoccurrence of disease, you change the treatment algorithm that Dimitri was alluding to. By doing so, you help patients to not stay too long in the hospital, which is also a very important burden to the healthcare system. So precision medicine, if we want to see it really short term, oh, this is what it costs for this, there is no way I can provide you with, oh no, this is fantastic. This is a long-term approach. We are not monitoring for the sake of monitoring. This is to drive an impact. And the impact is in, for sure, first our patients. And ultimately, this is on the healthcare system. So precision medicine is a way for that. And then you don't treat patients unnecessarily with treatment that they would not necessarily receive. So you go straight with what they would be needed.
If I to add, so from the data, well, from the sort of biotechnology and sort of bioinformatics computational perspective, right? So something that is also happening throughout the evolution of this precision medicine field is that we are coming up with more and more intelligent diagnostic systems, the system that can allow us to say, well, on the long run, if you spend X amount of dollars doing this and this, tests, it should be good enough. However, if you add, 10x, another test that costs 10 times as much, you get an improvement, but it's not a decisive factor. So it will allow us to manage sort of the price to quality of the not just treatment but also diagnostics, right? And on top of that, right? So one thing that one of the main reasons we are merging experimental with computational approaches, because the computational approaches are much cheaper, right? So the analysis done in computers much cheaper to do. And on top of that, right? So we are also seeing the sort of the evolution in technologies becoming cheaper and cheaper, right? If in the beginning of the Human Genome Project, to sequence a genome cost what, roughly $1 billion, right? Now we're talking about sub $1,000 per genome, ability to do so. So we will be seeing the technology become cheaper. That will in return will allow us to do the longer term diagnostics with less and less cost.
No, and a good point from the audience, and in the US in particular, we're moving from pay for service to kind of the value-based business model, right? It's the value of the service that gets reimbursed, sort of thing, which I think is a really good point to think about and that's how we manage the costs better, because there'd be more value in the precision medicine test as opposed to just a general generic sort of test, sort of thing. Celine, this question is really kind of more towards you, I guess. I think we understand how we want precision medicine to be used in the clinics, but we also use precision medicine in the development of the treatments and the drug regimes and the drug treatments. How do you see this speeding up the process, and how do you see this as kind of helping both the small biotechs and big pharma sort of evolve in their thinking?
Mm-hmm. It's going to speak again to all of this machine learning, artificial intelligence, so to what Dimitri is contributing to. So we have now the ability to screen a lot quicker several cells that represent the disease from patients with a large library of potential compounds. And the ability of all of our computing system now to tell us, okay, this compound has the potential for this and this potential disease is really, really fantastic and help us to really go fast. What we are doing as well in terms of animal model, we can go quickly to translational activities. And here again, this is by making the utility of all of the real, the electronic record and the biobank, because we have this emergence of countries as well, or cooperative group of academic institutions that have managed to have a large set of samples collected from patients over the time that is combined with their medical records. And then once we have identified from our bench which drug may be working for which cells, we are asking for those biobank, if I want to have a patient with these specific characteristics, could you please identify this patient? And then we can recruit a lot quicker also our patients. So everything is really helping to speed up and accelerate. And again, we are collaborating a lot with diagnostic company, academic institution, and startup. It's really important that we work together to speed up.
So speaking of startups, and one of the things that I think is interesting to think about is that there's been such a rapid evolution really in the last, let's say 3 to 5 years in precision medicine. Is there any area in particular that you kind of think of as like, okay, that's like the third rail of precision medicine? Don't go there, don't touch that, stay away from. If we have young entrepreneurs, maybe it's a good way for them to think about of like, don't do that, but go to everything else.
Actually, not quite. We are very curious of what they can bring. And most of the time when we start to engage, they are coming with, oh, I have already a signature, I have a super tool, I could already differentiate. Then we look a little bit more and, okay, so there are some steps that need to happen before you can make this claim. And when we think that the data package is sufficiently robust, so we start to work with them and guide. When it's not, we provide also directional guidance, whether they want to follow or not, this is up to them. And most of the time they come back. And we have also some of study samples that have been stored and that are extremely valuable, and where we can also work and partner with others really to maximize the value of these samples and generate data that could help to advance the field. So it's really, it's important to acknowledge that we might be really expert in drug development, the field, how it is evolving in new technology. These are others that are really top there, and we need really to partner.
Interesting. So your kind of view is that there might not be a third rail here for precision medicine. They go for it. The field is pretty open.
Yeah, because, you know, if I think back about 10 years ago, I was alluding to the monitoring. So it was a specific technology, molecular technology, that we were looking at. And we said, okay, instead of going for biopsy and take a tissue from a patient, let's use the blood and look at some markers that can be surrogate. And at that time, we did not have a full match of what you had from the tumor versus this. And it was, well, since there is no match, this is not a good approach, because our thinking was, if this is like this, it should be like that. 10 years down the road, no, actually the blood is fantastic because cancer has spread, and what you collect, if it does not match, is because you have spread all over the body. So there is value in this. So as scientists, we need to be open. It's very important to be curious. And if some results don't match our hypothesis, it does not mean that the results are wrong. Maybe our hypothesis was not the right one. So usually I have appetite for emerging technologies. But again, it's science. We should be rigorous. We should be disciplined and make things that make sense.
What are the trends that and Dimitri, please add into this. What are the trends that you guys see in the next, let's say, 12 to 18 months or maybe 24 months? What do you think? How do you think precision medicine is going to progress in the next couple of months?
Would be great if it was so fast. So maybe I leave it to Dimitri because biology does not evolve so quickly.
Yeah, I mean, I think we do see sort of a lot of enthusiasm among the research groups, simply because people are, I mean, in scientific community, they're eager to help. They're eager to fight these pandemics, to be done with, to be back to to our regular lives, but also to be prepared for the future pandemics, because it's not if, it's when the future pandemic will come, right? So I think in a way we see the boost in development of and ironically, a lot of these developments, technological developments, happen in computational in a computational sphere, because, well, everyone were sitting homes, right? And essentially working distributor, in sort of a distributed fashion. So that's one of the reasons we see sort of the growth of computational approaches over the past couple of years. But I would agree. So something that so you mentioned that areas that entrepreneurs should be avoiding, but I would actually rephrase this: what are the areas the entrepreneurs should really be looking at? And I think one of the areas got impacted pretty strongly, the area of the diagnostics using the blood, so liquid biopsy, and that because of the case of Theranos, right? That really impacted scientists, impacted businesses a lot, but and a lot of people became skeptical of this. But I think there is a huge, tremendous potential in using this kind of diagnostics and just going levels deeper, right? So looking not just inventing sort of novel biomarkers, not just at the gene base, but at the transcription base, looking at the epigenetic biomarkers, things that dynamically change in our bodies, right? So not just our genetic background. And we are seeing how much those additional levels that are becoming possible with new technologies, how much they are, they can inform us, and they provide us they can sort of streamline our analysis.
Well, I want to thank you both for, I think this was a great conversation, and I think we've only scratched the surface of where precision medicine is and where it can evolve to. And I think how the bridge has slowly, and I say slowly, but quite honestly, it's been quickly, evolved and kind of built between the two sciences, biology and computer science. Thank you so much for your time and your insight. But I see we're kind of getting close to the end of the time here. So I wanted to let you know, do either of you have any last comments that you want to, last thoughts?
Celine?
I think this is a field that has not finished to discover new things. Technology are really growing. I believe that the future of precision medicine is to be with more collaboration, more joint partnership, more co-development. And we are talking a lot about data. I don't also believe that this is to be owned by a unique entity, but on the contrary, something that should be made available because this is really for humankind. And I believe this is really the future of drug development and of our healthcare system.
I don't think that we can improve upon that as a closing sentiment or statement. So Celine, thank you very much. I appreciate that. Thanks guys for your time. We hope that this has been informative, and we hope everybody else has a great day. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.